Hello and welcome to Gapeys Garden. Today we're going to be doing a pepper update. It's been about a month since the last one, and the peppers have grown so much in the last month. So let's take a look. Let's start with the peppers in the greenhouse. They are going absolutely bonkers this year. I can't remember ever having peppers get this big this early in the season. So this side of the greenhouse, we did finally get some straw mulch put down. I haven't gotten around to putting it down on the other side, but I will hopefully get that done maybe later today. Let's start with this really pretty one. This one is the candy cane chocolate cherry, and it's got some really beautiful variegated leaves, and the peppers are also variegated. I'm not sure. I think this will probably eventually turn all red, but I'm not positive. So I haven't grown this one before, but I really like all these variegated leaves. Really pretty. This lipstick pepper is probably the smallest pepper that I have. It was one that I started the latest. It does have some pods that are starting to form on it, but it is a pretty small plant, so I'm not expecting a whole lot of harvest off of that one. This one here is the Bell Room. This is a cross that I got from my mom. It's an accidental cross of a bell pepper and mushroom pepper. So I grew this last year. I think it was the F3 that I grew last year, and this is the F4, but the shape is a lot different than it was last year. These are looking a lot more bell shaped, and they did not look like that last year. So it'll be interesting to see if they have any heat like they did last year. And you'll notice I have some posts on a lot of the peppers because a lot of them are just starting to fall over from the weight of all the peppers. This one here is the Aconcagua, which I've grown several times before, and from experience I know that this pepper really requires staking because the peppers get humongous and it's really productive. We've already got, I don't know, 5 or 6 pods set on there, and they're going to get a lot bigger than that. I've got several peppers with these tomato cages on them. These are useless for tomatoes, but they work great for peppers, and I could use a few more of these. And this one here is the Chloe's Sweet Tangerine. I'm surprised the plant is still this small. Usually it gets a lot bigger. We do have a couple of peppers that have set on it, but this is probably one of the sweetest peppers that I've grown, and I've been growing this one for the last several years and will continue growing it because I like it so much. And here we have the shishito, which I have also grown before several times, and this is one of the most productive peppers you can grow. And this variety is best picked when green, so I've already done several harvests off of this one. We tried this on pizza and it was really good, but you don't want to pick these when they're too ripe because the skin starts getting kind of rubbery and soft, which is not good. So green like this is the best time to harvest these. Now we're getting into some more of the really tall peppers. This one is the Padron, and I've grown this one several times before and know from experience that this one also needs a cage. So we've got a tomato cage around that one. We've got several peppers on here, but nothing has started to ripen yet. Ooh, this is a pretty big pepper here in the middle of the plant, but we've got lots and lots of pods all over on this one. This Luschauer paprika might be the tallest pepper in the greenhouse. There's quite a few that are getting pretty tall. We've got a cage around this one as well because this one is one I've grown before and know that it gets really super tall. But we've got quite a few peppers growing on there, and they haven't started ripening yet, but they should be starting to soon. I'm thinking about smoking these and making another batch of smoked paprika. It's not really any surprise that the Gabby Hot Wax was the first pepper to ripen in the greenhouse because it had some pretty good sized peppers on it even when I just put it in the ground. So I probably should have taken those off and let the plant grow a little bit taller before I started letting it set pods, but I couldn't resist. So we've got 2, actually 3 ripe pods here that are ready to pick, and several more that should be ripening up soon. Here we have another wax pepper. This one is called Winks Yellow Hot, and I have not grown this one or the other one before. I'm not sure I have actually ever grown a wax pepper. I think maybe once. But I've growing a few different ones this year. This one has pods that start out a really light yellow, and I think eventually those will ripen to red. But it was getting pretty tall, so I've got that one with a cage around it just in case. Got a few more peppers with cages. This one is Jolene's Rustic Italian. I have not grown this one before either, but it was getting pretty tall and looked like it might need a cage. So we've got quite a few peppers on there, and it looks like these are getting really big. I wasn't expecting these peppers to be that big, but this one is still growing and hasn't ripened yet. So I take it back. I think this Korean gochu pepper might be the tallest pepper. It looks like it's pretty much almost about to touch the bottom of the shelf here in the greenhouse. But this one is one that is probably my favorite pepper to grow. I've been growing this one every year for a long time. But this particular gochu, I got seeds from Kang Star, and I really, really like this variety. It's kind of hard to see because it's kind of getting crowded between these two other huge peppers. But it is super, super productive, and the peppers are really versatile. I like making hot sauce, and also it's great in stir fry and a delicious powder. So this is what you make gochujang out of. I've yet to try making that, but I really want to try that sometime. We've also got a different type of gochu called Gyopo gochu that I got from second generation seeds here. And this variety produces a little bit smaller peppers, but it should be, or it looks like it will be, about as productive as the other gochu that I'm growing. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one turns out and seeing what the heat level is. So gochus, depending on the variety, have a variety of different heat levels and different sized peppers as well. The last two peppers on this side of the greenhouse are Chinense varieties, and they're the only Chinense varieties I'm growing this year. This one is called Bikino, which produces really small peppers and a ton of them. You can see here, if I lift it up, you can see all those peppers down there. That should be turning ripe soon, but I think they're going to eventually turn red. And then this Chinense variety is a Scotch bonnet. So this is the Beth Boyd Orange Scotch bonnet, and it is taking a lot longer to produce any pods. I think we've only got one pod set. Let's see if we can get a look at it. This one here is the only one that has set so far that I could tell. A lot of the flowers have just been dropping off, but we've got tons of flowers here, so hopefully we'll get some more pods set soon. Let's start at the back of this side of the greenhouse. This is the side that I've got all of the Mexican peppers on. And this first one here is the pasilla. So I grew this last year outside of the greenhouse, and it took a really, really long time for it to ripen. And I think it's going to do much better here in the greenhouse. We've got tons of peppers here that are looking like they're about the size that they should be starting to ripen, so that is a good sign. I don't have any cages on any of the peppers on this side of the greenhouse, but some of them are starting to lean over, so I've had to put these stakes here to keep them upright. So this one here is the Chilhuacal Negro. I've got two of these plants, and they've got some really nice sized peppers on them. They're both pretty loaded with pods. Got that one there. This one here in the back is a little bit shorter, but it's got quite a few pods on there as well. I think this is the first year I've grown multiples of a variety. Normally I just do one of each. So I've got the Chilhuacal Negro I've got two of, and then this one here is the Guajillo. This is another one that I grew outside of the greenhouse last year, and it took a really long time for the pods to ripen. So this one in the front, it's just barely starting to set pods, so this one is a little bit far behind. but the one behind it is doing a little bit better. The pods are slightly bigger than the one in front, so that might be the biggest pod there, but the peppers are really, really tall. Not quite the tallest, but they're getting close. Now we move on to all of our jalapenos, of which I am growing quite a few this year. This one is called the Farmer's Market jalapeno, and it's a little bit different. It's got a lot of corking on these pods, which is different than a lot of jalapenos. So this looks kind of like a cantaloupe skin is kind of how I think it looks like. But we've got quite a few peppers set on this first one, and we've got another one back here that has some corking that is just starting to get on some of these peppers, but nothing's starting to ripen yet, but I think it won't be too long before we see some color on those. We've also got two of the Tam jalapenos. This is a more mild jalapeno, but the peppers on this one are fairly large and kind of wide. So we've got some good sized ones there. We've got quite a few on this back pepper as well. So this back one is a lot shorter, but it seems to have just as many pods as this one in the front. Now this one that's back here behind our little thyme bush here is the Mattapeno, but this one did not get the white leaves or variegation like the other ones that I grew did, so I decided to put this one in the greenhouse. And look at how long these pods are. So that doesn't even look at like a jalapeno at all, so I'm not sure if it got crossed with something or what, but we'll have to wait and see what these taste like, and see how big these actually get. This one here is the Mattapeno, which is a jalapeno that doesn't have any heat at all. And by the way, I haven't grown any of these jalapenos before, so these are all new to me. But these get a little bit fatter, but there are quite a few peppers in here, so it's going to be one of the more productive peppers, I think. And this one in here is the Ghetto jalapeno, and we don't have a whole lot of pods set on this one, but it looks like they are probably the fattest jalapenos that I'm growing, so that's probably the biggest one there. But we've got quite a few little ones that are just starting to grow. And the last jalapeno is the Zapotec, and this one is probably the furthest behind. This is probably the biggest pepper there, but we're just starting to see some pods set on this plant. I think I said before that the lipstick pepper was the smallest pepper, but I take that back. This one is definitely the smallest, and it was so small that I forgot to even show it in the last pepper update. This is a habanero. I have no idea what color it is. I picked this up as a little tiny baby start at a local plant swap, and it was a little bit late in the season for the size that it was, so I really am not sure if it's even going to produce any fruit. It doesn't have any flowers open on it yet, but we're giving it a shot and we'll see what happens. I have a couple peppers outside of the greenhouse that I got from my friend Elena. This is one of them. It's looking much, much better than it did during the last update. This is called Sweet Tiger Jalapeno, and we are starting to see a little bit of variegation on the leaves, which we didn't have when I planted it. So that is nice to see. We actually have a pepper here forming as well. I think that's the only one. It's got quite a few flowers, but doing much better. This Lecia is the other one that I got from Elena. It's a really sweet red pepper. I grew the orange one last year, but this is the red. It is doing a lot better than it was when I first planted it. However, it's not doing great because it's not in a very good spot. I didn't really have a plan for where to put these two peppers, and I put them in the tomato bed, and they're kind of surrounded by tomatoes and peppers and bolting lettuces, so they're not getting a great amount of sun. So it could be doing better if I had it in a sunnier spot, but it's doing all right. Now these three peppers are all Tangerine Tigers. This is the accidental cross from my greenhouse of the ahi tangerine and the sugar rush stripe. So I'm calling it the Tangerine Tiger. There's a whole lot of phenos and shapes out there, and these are 3 different ones. This first one here is one that I got seeds from Batman, so he grew the F3 last year. We're seeing all kinds of different shapes even on the F4s. We don't have any ripe yet, but lots of different shapes coming out here. And this one was the last to set pods, but it's also the tallest. The next one is from Matsutake, and it is actually getting a little bit of blossom end rot, it looks like. So this pepper here, you can see there's some kind of discoloration down there at the bottom that looks like blossom end rot. That might be the only pod I've seen that on, but we're also seeing a lot of different shapes on this one too. The pods are a pretty good size. I don't think I've grown one that had that big of peppers on it before, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this one does. Here's another one with a little bit of blossom end rot right there, so that's not good. And then this last one is from Rhiannon's Garden, and this is the only one that's getting some purple blushing on some of the peppers. So we've got quite a few here. This one's got quite a bit. I think the ones that are closer to the sun have more of that purple on it, but we've got some really good sized peppers on these as well. When I grew it last year, I grew them in containers, and this time I'm growing them in ground, so that might be why the peppers are getting a little bit bigger. But again, nothing is ripening up just yet on this one. It's time to take a look at our peppers in a can. I've got them in cups right now because they kept falling over, so that has helped them stay upright. But they are starting to ripen up. This one, I'm not sure what color this one gets when it's ripe, but this one is the Sedona Sun. But most of them are turning purple, so it's kind of a cool looking pepper. This one here is my favorite. This one is the Midwest Midnight, and it's got, as you can see, really dark purple, almost black leaves, but we're starting to see some of these peppers starting to ripen. They're getting a little bit of red on some of those. This last one here is the Hot Pops Yellow, and it is very light, so it could really use some water. I've had to water these multiple times a day sometimes because they just dry out so fast in these little containers. But this is the Hot Pops Yellow, and as you can see, it looks like the peppers are starting to turn a dark orange. I'm not sure if they were supposed to turn yellow since it's called Hot Pops Yellow, but they are not turning yellow. They're turning from, looks like a really light yellow to light orange, and then finally I think to a dark orange. I saved the Mattapenos for last, and unfortunately they're not doing well at all. So this one here is almost dead. The top is pretty much dried out. I might just cut it off there and see if I can get the bottom to grow. And then this one here I think is completely dead. I don't think there's any saving that one, so I'm just going to toss this one, I think. And this last one is doing the best. We do have some pretty good growth going there. I did have, if you can see, there's 2 branches here. I did cut one of those branches off because it had pretty much completely died back, just like this one did. But it started growing another branch here off to the side, and there is a little bit of green in there. And I think that is the problem with the other 2, is they didn't really have any green in the leaves, so they just pretty much quit and died. But we've got, I don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of green speckles in some of those leaves and a lot of green in this one. So I'm hoping it continues to get at least a little bit of green in the new leaves so that it could keep going. I hope you enjoyed this pepper update. I'll be doing another one next month, probably towards the end of August. I do have one question for you. If you're growing jalapenos and have a variety that you really like that you don't see me growing, let me know what variety that is, because I'm interested in trying some new ones next year. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.